function of the portfolio construction now,
Yeah.
right? So you've got this asset class. You say, oh well, I'll just do commodities, and oh God, I'm doing so great. And in the middle of the commodities run in the 70s, you have a 30%, 37% drawdown over 3-4 years. That's going to be a bit of a punch in the gut.
And it presupposes that that you're
correct.
going into an inflationary environment in the first place, right?
That's the next point that I wanted to make. Because first of all, I also point out that, do you guys remember late 2007, all the major institutions were buying up that Deutsche Bank commodity index as a passive allocation to commodities. Of course, again, wrong place at the wrong time, right before that 60% correction. A bunch of them got shaken out and they missed the opportunity from the bottom. I think commodities bottomed in December 2008 and then went for a massive run again until February 2011, right? So it's really tough to stick to, right? And that is the best outcome, by the way. The last 2 decades isn't it during an inflationary or commodity boom cycle. That's your best outcome. The reality is, like you said, you have to time it right? Because the Mann paper goes on to show us that inflation has only happened 19% of the time in the last 100 years. The other 81% of the time, most commodity buckets have a negative carry. And if you include just all of them as a bucket, you have a positive carry of 1%, right? So are you going to use this as a strategic tool forever? No. I mean, if this is why nobody has them, because they've experienced the 81%. And so now it's up to the allocator to be a market timer. And that's just a tough thing, right? So I think my conclusion is that commodities on their own from an asset allocation perspective, where you are having to show that line item, may not be an ideal solution.
And I would add that in the 2 charts you showed in those inflationary regimes, the S&P does not do very well. And so, that's yes, okay, there's solutions. And why do we need the solutions? Well, 2000, 2009, the return is very, very de minimis. And in the 70s, on a real basis, it's a negative.
The real return to U.S. equities during the 19% of the time you're in an inflation regime, the real return compounds at -7%.
That's right.
And so that's what's so important about inflation and inflation volatility and its impact on asset class prices, right? This is why this is so pertinent and relevant for those who are allocating assets over multi-decade periods, because it's not a if, it's when. So it happens, historically speaking, let's call it 20% of the time. So a fifth of the time, this happens. And if you're an allocator who allocates long-term assets over multi-decades, you are assured that you are going to be in a period that has these inflationary dynamics. And thus, if you're not allocating the assets that can help provide those real returns for those asset users, then you have to cut programs, cut spending if you're an individual. And so there are very real implications for the end asset user that are unpleasant if one just says, I'm going to ignore this.